On Harbord Street in downtown Toronto, and you may notice a storefront walled off with giant cement blocks. Well, that looks kind of unusual, doesn't it? That store is one of 4 locations of Cafe, an illegal cannabis dispensary in our town. All of those stores have been closed. In some cases, charges have been laid against staff and customers. Despite that, employees are still hawking their wares. On Harbord, there are folding tables. Patio umbrellas are set up in front of the shop. You can make an online order. It goes into an iPad. You pay in cash, and half an hour later, your order is delivered. Metro Morning's Amanda Grant went to the cafe on Harbord to speak with some of the people waiting to find out why exactly they are choosing to buy illegally when legal cannabis is available just down the road.
I live in York, and coming downtown is a hassle. All the legal dispensaries are downtown. They should have forced them to spread them out. Secondly, I've noticed that they have better products at the cafe versus the other one.
It's kind of like an order and wait system now. How are you finding that in comparison to ordering online?
I don't order online. I pay cash. I get my pot. Because people want it right away. People don't want to wait 2 or 3 days to get it in the mail.
As a customer myself, I don't just like to get high. Sometimes I use it for the CBD product for working out. The extracts, we have patients that come and shake. Parkinson's, they shake. CBD might stop it for a lot of them, and they don't have that kind of stuff. They don't have accessibility to wheelchairs at some places. It's not fair for small businesses or for the community that wants to get their proper medicine that you can see and smell.
The storefront's completely blocked over, and yet there's still, crowds of people gathering around. Why do you think people still want to come to this space?
If a convenience store is selling smokes to an underage kid, why don't they get blocks in front of theirs? There's something wrong about this. It shouldn't be like this. Is just ridiculous. I get angry just talking about it, very kind of emotional about it, but I don't know. It's really making a lot of patients angry. Forget about the whole recreational getting high. I don't know. This is very ridiculous at this point.
There's something special about when a whole community comes together to support one store, and obviously this type of support hasn't come with any other dispensary in the city. There's a reason for that, because other dispensaries just aren't doing the people justice. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't have a good staff, knowledgeable staff. They know about the medicinal properties of each different strain. They provide a safe environment for everyone. That should be acknowledged by the government. What is their strategy around this? Providing more accessibility alcohol, but taking accessibility away from a more healthy alternative.
Have you purchased product from a legalized dispensary?
I have, absolutely. That is my alternative if I don't have a cafe around, absolutely. But
what has your experience been in one of those provincially sanctioned dispensaries?
Awful, absolutely awful. You don't see the product at all. The staff does not know anything about the product.
What you get by mail is not the same. At least I know with these folks here, what you see is what you get.
Why do you need medicinal cannabis?
I have an L5 that has shifted. I know their product, and this is my option, yeah. These people here are professionals. They take care of not only the edibles, but they also take care of the dry stuff. So it is properly cured, even though they have them in jars, and I have not once seen mold with their stuff.
If you had few strains from the legal one that was as good, then they would get much more business, I would think.
You'd be willing to go to a legal dispensary if the product was better?
Yeah, definitely.
So what will happen? You'll wait and someone will come here?
They come here and they call out the names of the people who have ordered, and then you pick up your product from there.
Why are you out here out front of the cafe location on Harbord today?
To support them for their being closed and to also purchase. It's so civilized. It's like you walk in, you get your order, you walk out, and I don't see what the problem is. It's like a regular business.
Have you purchased from a legal dispensary as well?
No. I know people that have, and they said the quality's not that great for the government stores. So I don't even have interest in trying it. I'll seek out other, if this doesn't open, I'll seek out other illegal pot shops. It's convenient, it's close to where I live, and there's no hassles. And there's nothing out in the East End, there's nothing out in the West End, so people have to seek out other sources.
It's really just the quality of standards that they hold. I mean, every place needs to have a quality standards, and they go above it.
Have you purchased from a legal dispensary?
I have, yeah.
And how would you compare the experience?
It's like going to a flea market versus going to a retail store. It's really, that's the comparison that I would make. And I mean, you're getting something that's almost like secondhand, it's old, versus getting something that's fresh.
You would rather purchase illegal product over legal because of the quality of the product that the province is providing?
Absolutely, yeah. That's really what it comes down to.
Some of the customers outside Cafe, the illegal cannabis dispensary on Harvard Street, speaking with Metro Morning producer Amanda Grant, despite the fact that the place has been bricked up and closed down, they're still selling cannabis out on the sidewalk. Cafe is one of a handful of Toronto dispensaries that remain open, illegally selling cannabis, and it does so in the face of concrete blocks, mounting fines, and now federal criminal charges. What is at stake for these dispensaries? Will they stay open in the face of those federal charges? Will the customers we heard from just be forced to go elsewhere? And why are people lining up in front of an illegal cannabis dispensary where you can buy cannabis legally in this province? Caryma Sa'd is a cannabis lawyer who represents employees and landlords at some of the city's illegal dispensaries, and she's with me in studio now. Good morning.
Good morning.
In some ways, there's some absurdity to this story, that the store is open, then it's closed, then it's bricked off, then the bricks are removed and it's opened again, and then people put the bricks back and they continue to operate. Are you surprised at the extent to which the owners of this chain are going and the distance that they're going to stay open?
I mean, it's certainly something we haven't really seen before. The drama and the circus of what's going on at Cafe, and their persistence in the face of enforcement is very remarkable. And yeah, I think it's unique in that sense.
Remarkable or foolhardy?
It depends on who you ask, and you're right that the stakes are high. There are federal charges that have been laid, which means that some of the penalties or the maximums increase dramatically.
I mean, you're looking at like 14 years in prison.
On the upper end, yes.
I want to talk about those stakes in a moment, but we just heard from people who are lining up. If you go by Harvard Street, you go by the Bloor Street location. I haven't been down near the Front Street one down by City Place, but people are still lined up. It's like there's some sort of wake happening outside, but people are also buying out there. What do you make of the reasons why people are continuing to buy from an illegal dispensary that has been closed so many times?
I think some of the themes that I picked up on just hearing from customers outside, there's concerns about access, quality, pricing, and it seems that Cafe is meeting those needs in a more concrete way than some of the licensed dispensaries.
Have you been into the Cafe?
I actually have not until it was blocked up, so I hadn't physically been in.
I just wonder, for people who haven't been in, explain that. I mean, what is this place offering? What is this business offering that you can't buy, whether you go to the legal stores or whether you go online?
From what I've heard, I think one of the main products that's not available elsewhere is edibles. I think there are also certain derivatives that may not be easily accessible in licensed dispensaries, and it's the flower itself, the bud, is not prepackaged from what appears to be a licensed producer.
Do you have some sympathy for these store owners?
You know, the way that distribution has rolled out in Ontario has left a lot of people disappointed and frustrated. When Premier Ford initially took power, there was talk of a privatized sort of free-for-all. As long as you meet the criteria, you can participate. And that rug was really yanked out from under people. And I think that some of the existing market participants would like to play by the rules, would like to pay taxes, would like to be subject to the licensing, but they weren't lucky enough to win a lottery.
Well, they were also breaking the law before. Why should somebody who was breaking the law before allowed to be running a legitimate business?
I mean, that is one way to look at it, and I have some sympathy for that argument. But cannabis itself was illegal, and without the work of advocates and patients coming together and taking a stand, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So, yes, it's an extension of behavior, whether it's protest or however you want to characterize it. I think that the cannabis community has always reacted in that way.
But, I mean, you know, I have to buy alcohol from licensed distributors from the LCBO. Now you can buy it from some grocery stores. But if the grocery store or the LCBO isn't convenient to me, I can't just set up a booze can in front of my house and sell bottles of wine. I'd be hauled in front of the courts in a blink of an eye. What gives people the belief that they can do this with cannabis?
I think because the regime is so new, there may be a sense that people feel if we act now, perhaps we can see a change, and perhaps we can see a change that actually reflects what we want to see. And alcohol is widely accessible. The 25 stores that are currently, or actually 24 that are operational in Ontario, that's for the entire province.
But you understand what I'm getting at, right? I mean,
do.
It could be alcohol, it could be a pharmacy. The drugstore is too far away. I can get some generics, and I'm going to, set up a table and an umbrella and sell them to you. I mean, the rule, whether you agree or disagree, the law is the law, is it not?
That's the law is the law, but the penalties that you would face for selling alcohol in that way are actually significantly lower than what you would see for cannabis. And again, because this is so new, I think there's a sense that if we push back now, perhaps we'll see a change.
You represent some landlords in the city who have operated dispensaries?
Who have had dispensaries on their property, that's right.
What's at stake for them?
There are fines, there's possible imprisonment, depends on whether the landlord is an individual or an organization, but I've seen mostly provincial charges up to this point.
The cafe chain, CBC News did some reporting last week about this and around the owners, or some of the owners around this. They make a lot of money. I mean, the estimates from the city and beyond are something like $50,000 per location per day. That's a lot of money.
And that also perhaps speaks to some of the incentive to keep going.
Does that justify the risk? I mean, nobody has been convicted in any of these charges that have been laid.
I mean, I'm personally pretty risk averse, so it's a lot at stake. But what I would say is there's the monetary aspect and incentive, and then there is a more principled approach, and it depends on, I suppose, who you're talking to.
But I mean, let's be honest, $50,000 a day per location, that's probably going to float the boat, right? I mean, you can talk about principles, but really this is about making money, I think a lot of people would admit.
And because there are so few distribution licenses that have been granted, those profits are concentrated in the hands of 25 license holders, some of whom seem to have connections to licensed producers.
Where are they getting the pot? Where are they getting edibles?
That, there has long been an underground market that thrives. So whether it's locally sourced or coming from other provinces or coming from individuals, small entrepreneurs who are setting up shop, I don't know the specific sourcing for cafe.
Well, and I don't either, but I mean, people in past have speculated, whether it's a chief of police, whether it's the former chief of police, Bill Blair, that this is about organized crime. Does that give you any pause? That in the distribution element of this, at the very least in the back end, where this is coming from, that organized crime might have something to do with this?
That's something that we hear a lot, and, I'm not discounting the possibility that that's true, but my impressions of the cannabis community, there's a lot of small-scale individuals who are, doing what they can do and selling it, and it's not necessarily Hell's Angels.
Just a couple of quick questions to end this. One is, do you think that the threat of that federal sledgehammer, those serious penalties, will that finally shut this down?
It's a lot of pressure to be facing, and it's really the people on the front line who are at the most risk. So I do think that it changes the landscape a little bit.
The other side of this is, do you think that this will force the federal or the provincial government to change its regulations around this and bring some of those established, this is a very popular place, whether you like it or not, bring some of these established businesses into the official fold?
I mean, I hope it's something that the province will consider. And I do appreciate, again, that, there's a sense of not wanting to reward bad behavior, but just the sheer volume and support that cafe seems to be attracting, that's reason to reconsider. And these are businesses that provide employment to local people. They provide a product that local customers are wanting. So why not allow our economies to thrive.
It's a story that people are paying a lot of attention to here and abroad. Caryma, we'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caryma Sa'd is a cannabis lawyer whose clients include employees of and some landlords of Toronto's unlicensed cannabis stores. You can hear more about this on the CBC News podcast Front Burner. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts this morning.